Hey guys, what's up? It's Dustin and I'm back with another video. Today is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to have an unboxing video. We're going to do a DIY video for Harry Potter. And today we're going to be doing a DIY Mandrake. So, you can buy these things online. A lot of the ones you see online are really just the squatty Mandrake in a pot. It kind of looks like a blob in a pot with the label. I like these because they are out of the pot. There's a little more to them. They look like an actual Mandrake. So we are going to be making one today. Shouldn't take too long, but the things you'll need when making them will be, I use either PVC pipe or a 2x2. The arms are just some floral wire. I take a couple of them, twist them together so that there's a little more stability there. And then when I attach them to the PVC pipe, I put them on with just some extra clay. Doesn't matter what color, because you're going to cover it up anyway. A clay pot. I use just the small ones. I use polymer clay, the kind you have to bake to get it to harden. A couple different colors. I'll use brown, I'll use white, and then black for the eyes. And I have an old fondant tool set that I use for blending some of the clay parts together. It's not a necessity, but it does make life a little bit easier when you're having to get some of those small spots in there. And then also some toothpicks for the reasoning behind that I'll show you in a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Eventually we will end up with one of these guys. Alright? So the first thing you're going to do is just take your PVC pipe and you're going to cover it in clay. Just getting a base on there. Depending on the temperature of the clay is how easy it'll be to work it. So this has been sitting out at room temperature, not too cold, so it's actually pretty pliable. And we're not going to cover all the way down because the very bottom is going to be down in the pot. So you can kind of see where it needs to be. We're going to end about right here. So there's no need to put clay all the way down there, because as you can see on these, we just fill them with different types of yarn or whatnot to make it look like dirt or grass or whatever. So we're going to work the clay all the way around and cover the arms. Alright, now that we have the piece of PVC pipe covered, you can see that there are a lot of little lines in here where it meets the bottom part where you were just putting your clay together. You can just smooth those out with your hand. We're going to be doing a lot to this, so you won't see any of these lines in the end. The finished product will look much different than we look right now, obviously. So next we're going to cover the arms. And to do that, you just need to flatten out a piece of clay, roughly the size of what you're doing, or what area you're covering. We'll roll it around, and just kind of pinch it off at the bottom. Just like that, so. Get together there. If you've got a lot of extra in the back, just rip it off. Put it to the side, and just kind of roll it to make sure it's good and stuck to whatever you use for the arms. I used to actually use wood and would hot glue it out and down, and then a couple of times when I was baking the clay at the end, the hot glue got really it warmed up and melted again, so that caused some problems. So since then, I have started using any type of wire will work. I just so happen to have this floral wire lying around. So that arm is not finished, but it's covered. We'll do the same thing to the other side. There we go. He's got 2 arms now. And these arms will take shape more as we go through. We'll add some definition to them. A lot of the, like you can kind of see here where the wire goes around for the arms. All of these mandrakes have little roots and things running along them. So in the end, you will never see any of these seams where the mandrake meets. We will disguise all of that. So now for the head, we're going to actually build up a little bit for the head till we meet where the roots actually come up for the leaves. So we're just going to take some of our extra clay and start to build it up there. Don't worry about putting too much. You can always take it back off if you don't need it all. So place it on top and just start smoothing it down so that it is seamless. There we go. He may have a little bit of a weird shape, but we'll work it out as we go. Alright, next we're going to start on the mouth for our mandrake. So everyone knows they're slightly whiny. You can make it look however you want to. It can be smiling, it can be crying. It really is up to you as to what you want it to be doing. I generally have mine crying just to stick to the overall theme of how they actually are in the movie. Again, you're not making anything permanent right now. We're just going to stick the shape of the mouth on here. As we're making the nose and the eyes, it will change quite a bit. So nothing is final on here right now. And this clay is not going to harden on you until you bake it. So you have plenty of time to decide where you're going. So we'll go ahead and put that there. And then if you notice on these guys over here, they've got some cheeks. So we're going to go ahead and just add a couple pieces of clay here so that when we're blending, we can blend the cheeks in also, and we don't have to go back and add them in there. And it's kind of the same with your arms. Like our arms are a little bit high for him right now, so we can push those down to where they kind of need to be. If it messes up your clay, it's fine. And that's another thing I like about the wire, is you can adjust the wire, opposed to if that was wood, we would be stuck pretty much where the arms were at that present moment. So I'm just getting them out of the way here so I can work on the mouth and the cheeks. And before I go blending all of this in, I'm going to go ahead and make the nose. So here's where we are at as of right now. Does not look like a mandrake yet, but I promise we'll get there. So there's where we're at with the mouth. And our nose is just going to be just kind of push your fingers together to get the rough shape of a nose. Smooth it out. And we will take and place that guy right on here. Smooth down the edges a little bit. And we have part of a nose. So I'm actually going to grab one of these fondant tools and work on smoothing out some of these creases where the clay is meeting. And if you do have something like this, you really just roll it down and it brings it together. Alright, so now we have the mouth and the nose pretty much smoothed out there. So it is just as simple as smoothing out the edges, working it in there. Very, very, very easy. So we will go ahead and take the fondant tool we were smoothing with and push it up into the nose, just so that it has some nose holes. And if they get smushed down, we can always go back and add more defined ones later. That's just to kind of help finish off that nose there. And we will move on to the eyes. You can use whatever for the eyes. You can use marbles, you can use clay. I used marbles for my first couple, and I've used clay ever since. So you're just going to take black clay. I make them roughly the same size, roll them out there, and we will now go ahead and add them. Placement doesn't have to be perfect the first time. You can move any of this around. But, so we're going to, well, that was kind of weird there. So we're going to go right there. And then we will take little round or flat pieces of clay and go around the eyes on the top and around the eyes on the bottom. So there's our first eye. It's a little higher up. And there's our second eye. So I'm going to take just a minute here. I'm going to smooth the eyes out and we'll be right back. Alright, so now we've got the eyes on here and a little more definition on the cheeks. So here's where we're at right now. If you look at these other guys over here, you can kind of see they all have like somewhat of chin, so you don't have just a super sharp drop off right here from his mouth down. So we're going to take just a piece of our clay there and work that in. It's going to give a little more definition to the mouth, and we should be able to go ahead and finish the mouth up at that point. If there's any changes that we need to make, we still can, but it'll at least give us an idea of kind of what we're looking at. That might be a little too much. And again, you just kind of give it the shape you want it to be. Smoothing it down around. Now that we've got it smoothed in there, we will just go ahead, kind of give it the shape we want it. Okay. So he's got somewhat of a chin there. When we're finishing up and looking over all of it, I'll probably make a couple of changes. And then if you see, they all have kind of a little belly here too. So same concept as the chin. You're going to just add some more clay down here at the bottom. Smooth it out so there's no seams. And then we're going to give the stomach some definition. And smooth it out so those lines just aren't so harsh. And now we're ready to add the top where the leaves will go. So, well, actually, before I do that, because I like to finish the top of it right before we bake it, so it doesn't have a lot of time to move and get misshapen or fall down. We'll go ahead and we'll work on shaping our arms a little bit more. Right now they're just kind of blobs. But since they're technically roots or a plant, you don't have to worry about a hand or fingers. I always just make mine come to a soft point at the end. And here in just a few minutes when we actually go and add the roots and things, I'll add roots onto the arms as well, just to hide any of these little creases or any wire that may be coming through there. Pretty good on this arm. Now let's do the same thing over here. And if you want to put them where you're going to position them for final, now would be the time to do that. These are actually in a pretty good spot, so I'm just not gonna mess with them. So these are pretty good now. They're ready for just the final little bit of detail that we're going to put on there. This mouth is giving me problems. Not a huge fan of it right now. And like I said before, it's just all as to what you want it to look like. Okay. So now we will go ahead and add the top pieces there. And I generally do 3. Not for any particular reason, but if they're able to kind of all balance on each other, it makes them a little more stable that way. So we'll just kind of roughly shape them here. And if you want, you can add just a twist or 2 in there to give it a little more texture. And that is why I do it like that, just so you can have a little bit of extra support with it all standing on itself. We will again take one of these fondant tools and spread the bottoms into the rest of the head, so that way you don't see any lines. We're going to add some texture here in just a few minutes to the whole thing, because it's fairly smooth right now, and that's obviously not how a mandrake would look. It's just super flat. So we're going to add some texture here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and smooth these out, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, so now, as you can see, we've got these up here. They're smoothed out and completely attached. So we are pretty much done with the look of our mandrake. So that is pretty much what our finished product will be, except for I always like to add just a few roots, or what look like roots. They almost look like veins throughout just the whole thing. So we'll add a couple on the arms, one that'll go the whole length of one arm, and maybe add a smaller one on this side that comes halfway. Over here. So put one right there. You can put them anywhere you want to. It just adds a little more definition and dimension to it. We'll put one along the side over here. We'll just kind of wrap it around and let it go back up. And I usually keep them away from the actual head itself, just so you don't have too much going on there. But we'll put one coming down from the top, wrapping around to kind of hide where we had the arm wire wrapped around in there. So there we go. And then I'm going to take one of these fondant tools and just smooth it out, so that way there's no obvious seam. Alright, so as you can see now, I've kind of got these blended in on the back and the sides and the arms. So I will actually show you on this last one how I do it. It's very, very easy, very simple. You're just going to take and press around. And you can do it with your finger. You don't have to have something like this. I actually go back through and clean it up with my finger at the end. This is just really to get the two together. So now that the clay is all one, I'll just take my finger, smooth along the edge there so that you can't tell that it was two pieces. And there we go. So, if you like the look of this, as it is right now, before you paint it, you can leave it like this, but I will take and just add some scratch marks on here for texture. Not in any particular order or whatnot, but when I paint the Mandrake, you will see why I do this. I make it with the way that I shade. I'll fill it in with a darker color first so that these scratches take the darker color, and then go in and wipe it off of the outside and go over it with a different color, so it just adds just another dimension to the Mandrake itself, so it's not smooth and all just one color. You can do as many or as few as you want. I don't do a ton. And then as you're doing this, clay is going to pop up, so you can just smooth it back down with your finger. So now he's got scratches on him. And he's just about ready to go to the oven. So at this point, I will get out the toothpicks that I showed you earlier and show you what they're for exactly. When it's all said and done, and we are finished painting the Mandrake and it's ready for leaves, instead of just hot gluing to the outside, I like to be able to stick the leaves down in the clay. So to hold my spot, I'll just take 3 or 4 toothpicks, predetermine where I want my leaves to go, and I'll go ahead and put the toothpicks in, so that way the stem of the leaf will be able to go down inside the clay, and you don't really run the risk of it falling off or you being able to see hot glue, because it's actually going to go down into the hole. Put the leaves wherever you want, doesn't matter. So here is our semi-finished Mandrake. He'll look quite a bit different than this once we get him painted, but for now he is ready to go into the oven. Alright, now that we have baked him, he's nice and hard all over, still a little warm. We can go ahead and take the toothpicks out of the top. And we will go ahead and get our paints ready and start to paint them. I'll use black, brown, white, and then just a little bit of an orange that we'll mix with brown just to make it look a little more dirty, a little more like clay. So we can start with just the brown and kind of see what it does. This is a very dark clay once it bakes, so you can kind of see there that we may need to add some white to this to give it a little more texture, but it actually looks, it's not that bad. So okay. I'm going to actually take the little brush and kind of go over these lines with the black that I have. Just some of the cut in lines that we put in. Not too much, and I'm gonna take and wipe it off after, so that way you're getting the black into the lines that we made and not just everywhere. But since this is a little warm, it's wanting to stick all over. So you can see there how the black kind of stays in there. I'm actually going to do this just with the paper towel itself, so that way it's easier to wipe back off. So we've got some black down there. Now we're going to go over it with the brown. And we're just going to color it all, paint it rather. Paint it all with this brown, and then we'll go back and do some shading. And you can get brown in the mouth as well, it doesn't really matter. We're going to go back in and add black in the mouth, and the same thing with the eyes. If you get brown on the eyes, it's no big deal because we are going to go in and put a coat of paint on them as well, but we just want to be able to get the brown in there. And as it starts to dry, I'll go in and wipe some of the brown off, so you get the original brown color and the brown color that we're putting on, so it just looks a little more dirty. And he's very shiny right now because the paint's wet. That'll dull off also. Alright, so he's mostly painted brown here. We'll go back in, and this is the same tile that had some of the black on it. So if you want to put black on in some spots, and like say on these roots, just to make it look a little more dirty, you can, and then go back and kind of wipe it off, so that way you're just adding some other colors in there. Right, so he's got a base coat of brown on there at least. We will now take our hot glue gun and fix them to the bottom, because there's nothing else that's really going to require us to hold it anymore. So I just put quite a bit down in there to make sure that it stays. And we'll just set him right down in on top of it. Him, her, whatever. And then we will take a smaller brush and we will touch up the eyes where we got some brown on there. And then, so I baked this guy at 225 for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, you can be careful, but you can kind of test it and see, just to by touch, if it is hard. And if it is, you can go ahead and pull it out. I'll let mine sit there for a few minutes just to make sure it's cooled down enough. For video purposes today, he's still a little bit warm. I think that's got a little bit to do with why the paint looks so shiny. And I just use an acrylic based paint. So there we go. His eyes are back black. And then I also paint the inside of the mouth. You don't have to get it to be super black. It can be black and brown. You just want to have a little bit of definition in there. So now we're going to go grab our leaves to finish the top, and we'll touch up a little bit more of this paint here. Alright, and now you can see our paint has kind of started to dry a little bit, so we're getting some different shades of brown and different tones on there. We're going to go ahead and add our leaves in the spots that we put before. You can pick up any kind of leaf that you want to use. I just got these because it was a huge thing and it kind of looks similar to the ones in the movie. We'll just place these on here where we had those holes before. And he's pretty much done. I always take, for the bottom of the pot, this is some like rolled up plastic wrap, and I'll use it to fill the bottom of the pot with, just so that way we're not using a ton of, I use yarn for the majority of all of the bases, because you can get really any color that you want, and it doesn't cost a whole lot, and it looks good. So instead of winding around and around the pot, I'll take and wind quite a bit out in a circle, put it over the mandrake, and just fill the bottom of the pot with it so that it looks like grass or moss. And you can use the moss or fake grass that they have at craft stores, but I think this looks good. So I see a lot of people that put the Mandrake label down here. I don't ever do that. I have these things sitting out throughout my house. I really just don't want the Mandrake label on it. So that is the DIY Mandrake. If you want to see other Harry Potter related DIYs, drop a comment, let me know what exactly you want to see, and I'll post more videos. But yep, there are 4 of the Mandrakes that I currently have. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Like the video and subscribe to my channel, and drop a comment and let me know what you want me to make next. Thanks.